In example 6b, we are going to take another word problem and translate it into a system of linear equations. A Houston Texans player has decided to bulk up during the football season by supplementing his weekly diet with an additional 325 grams of protein, 185 grams of fiber, and 110 grams of fat. If a hamburger contains 20 grams of protein, 10 grams of fiber, and 5 grams of fat, a cheeseburger contains 25 grams of protein, 10 grams of fiber, and 5 grams of fat, and a sloppy Joe contains 20 grams of protein, 15 grams of fiber, and 10 grams of fat. How many of each should he eat weekly to meet his goal? Again, before continuing with the video, read through this problem as many times as you need to fully understand what is going on. All right, the first thing we need to do is figure out what we're being asked, what we're looking for, and how many variables we need and what those variables are going to represent, okay? Again, we want to scan the last part of the problem, the last sentence or so. Usually that's where you can find that information, okay? It says, how many of each should he eat weekly, okay? This guy is putting himself kind of on a diet to supplement his diet with extra protein, fiber, and fat, okay? So we're trying to figure out how many of each he should eat, okay? Well, you don't eat exactly, you don't eat protein by itself or fiber by itself or fat by itself. You're looking for how many hamburgers does he need to eat? How many cheeseburgers does he need to eat? How many sloppy joes does he need to eat? Okay, so that is what we're looking for. How many of each, meaning hamburgers, cheeseburgers, and sloppy joes, does he need to eat, okay, weekly to meet his goal? Okay, so we're going to let X be the number of I'll go in order. Let X be the number of hamburgers he needs to eat weekly. Okay, so like that. Okay, we want to be very specific. It's just the number of hamburgers he needs to eat. Okay, we're going to let Y be the number of cheeseburgers he needs to eat weekly. And then we're going to let Z be the number of sloppy joes. So the number of sloppy joes he needs to eat weekly. All right, so those are our variables, okay? We have 3 variables, X, Y, and Z, okay? So that typically means we're going to need 3 equations, okay? So we need to scan through the problem again and look for 3 other ideas, okay? 3 other ideas besides hamburgers, cheeseburgers, and sloppy joes, okay? So when you scan through the problem again, okay, you see 3 other things: protein, fiber, and fat, okay? So that's where each of your equations are going to come from, okay? And I will color code them. We're going to have one equation based off of protein. We're going to have another one that comes from fiber. And then our last equation will be based off of fat content. Okay, so let's start with the protein equation. Okay, so remember, all of your equations are going to involve X, Y, and Z. Okay, so go back through the problem. Anything that talks about protein, you want to underline it. Okay, let's see. I've got 325 grams of protein. I've got 20 grams of protein. I've got 25 grams of protein, and and then I also see 20 grams of protein. Okay, so that's all the protein stuff, and I'm putting it in one color, okay, so that we can easily identify it. Okay, so basically, if we kind of read through this, we know that this guy wants an additional 325 grams of protein in his diet, and that's going to come from eating these extra hamburgers, cheeseburgers, and sloppy joes. Each hamburger, cheeseburger, and sloppy joe contains so much protein. We know that a hamburger contains 20 grams of protein, a cheeseburger contains 25 grams of protein, and then a sloppy joe contains 20 grams of protein. So basically what we need to do is add up all the protein in each of the food items, and then that will give you the total number, the total amount of protein, okay? All right, so let's talk hamburgers, okay? Each hamburger contains 20 grams of protein, okay? Well, how many hamburgers is he going to eat? Well, X. He's going to eat X many of these per week, okay? So if each hamburger contains 20 grams of protein and he's eating X many hamburgers, the hamburgers are going to provide 20 times X grams of protein, okay? And then we're going to deal with cheeseburgers. The way we set it up variable-wise, he's going to eat Y many of those in a week, okay? And each cheeseburger contains 25 grams of protein, okay? So each cheeseburger contains 25 grams of protein, and he's eating Y many cheeseburgers per week, okay? So the cheeseburgers are going to provide 25 times Y grams of protein, okay? And then lastly, the sloppy joes, he's eating Z many of those. That's how we set this up. Each sloppy joe is going to contain 20 grams of protein, okay? So each sloppy joe has 20 grams of protein, and he's eating Z many of those. So that will be 20 times Z grams of protein provided by the sloppy joes, okay? So to get the total protein, you need to add all of that up, okay? And that's got to equal the total amount of protein or additional protein that the Texans player wants in his diet. So that's going to be 325 grams. Okay, so that is your first equation. Okay, so the hamburgers contributed so much protein. The cheeseburgers contributed so much protein to the diet, and as did the sloppy joes. Okay, so you add all that up and that's going to equal the total amount of protein. Okay. All right. So in blue, we're going to do the same thing with fiber. Okay. Each of these food items has so much fiber in it. Okay. So we're going to, look for all the fiber content. So I'm going to put it in blue. We're going to scan through the problem, underline anything that talks about fiber. Okay. All right. So there we go. All right. So same thing. You've got to go to hamburgers, cheeseburgers, sloppy joes separately and deal with the fiber content, okay? So we know that the Texans player is going to be adding 185 grams of fiber to his diet. So we know that the right side of the equal sign will be 185, okay? So let's talk hamburgers. A hamburger contains 10 grams of fiber, okay? He's eating X many hamburgers per week, okay? So each hamburger contains 10 grams of fiber and he's eating X many per week. So the fiber content from hamburgers will be 10 times X, okay? Then you look at cheeseburgers. He's eating Y many of those per week, okay? And then each cheeseburger contains 10 grams of fiber, okay? So each one contains 10 grams of fiber and he's eating Y many of them. So that's going to be 10 times Y grams of fiber. And then lastly, if you look at the sloppy joes, okay, each sloppy joe contains 15 grams of fiber, okay, and he's going to eat Z many of those per week, okay. So the amount of fiber contributed by the sloppy joes is going to be 15 times Z, okay. So to get the total amount of fiber, you need to add the fiber from the hamburgers plus the fiber from the cheeseburgers plus the fiber from the sloppy joes, okay, and that should total an additional 185 grams of fiber. Okay, so that's the second equation. All right, the last equation, I will put everything in green. Okay, it's going to come from the fat content. Again, each hamburger has so much fat, each cheeseburger has so much fat, each sloppy joe has so much fat. Okay, so go back through the problem, underline anything you see about fat. All right, so there we go. Okay. All right, so again, if you read through this, okay, he wants to put an additional 110 grams of fat into his diet. Okay, so the third equation, the right side of the equal sign will be 110. Okay, that 110 grams of fat additional will be coming from hamburgers, cheeseburgers, sloppy joes. Okay, so let's start with hamburgers. We know the Texans player is eating X many hamburgers per week. Okay, well, each hamburger, if you read through it, each hamburger contains 5 grams of fat. Okay, so that's going to be 5 times X. Okay, that's the number of grams of fat contributed by the hamburgers. Okay, each hamburger contains 5 grams of fat. He's eating X many hamburgers. Okay, then go on to the cheeseburgers. Okay, each cheeseburger contains 5 grams of fat as well. Okay, he's going to eat Y many cheeseburgers. Okay, and each cheeseburger has 5 grams of fat. So the total fat content from the cheeseburgers is going to be 5 times Y. Okay, and then lastly, look at the sloppy joes. He's going to be eating Z many of those. Okay, each sloppy joe contains 10 grams of fat. Okay, so the fat content from the sloppy joes will be 10 times Z. To get the total fat, you need to add the fat content from the hamburgers, the cheeseburgers, and the sloppy joes. Okay, and equate that to 110. Okay, so that is going to be your system of equations. Okay, here are the equations and the variables and what they specifically represent.